Sawadee thank you everyone for joining this session. My name is Joshua. I'm the Regional Director at Chainalysis, and it's really my privilege to be here today to talk to you about building trust in the midst of everything that's been happening, right? Hacks, scams, sanctions. So at Chainalysis, we are very much focused on making sure that the crypto ecosystem is a place where everybody can transact and participate with trust. And we have been doing this since 2014 when we were founded as a company to help law enforcement investigate cryptocurrency crime. And the largest at that point in time was a hack into an exchange called Mt. Gox in 2014. This exchange is in Japan, and they lost over 300 million worth of cryptocurrency. And our founders developed data and tools to help law enforcement investigate. And you can see that throughout our history, we have been in some of the most high-profile crypto crime investigations ever in the world. We were able to help bring down darknet markets, the largest being Silk Road Marketplace. We were investigating ransomware as well as child pornography, and also tracing through the Colonial Pipeline ransomware issue. Today, Chainalysis is the market leader in this space. We work with over 700 companies in over 70 countries to kind of help them make sure that their transactions is well protected. They are not transacting with illicit activities. And we also help law enforcement to do regulations and surveillance of the industry. So how do we do it? And I want to explain a little bit about this before we go into how we want to really build trust in this ecosystem. So as you would know, blockchain data is public, but it's not really human readable. So you can see all the transactions that are happening on the blockchain, but as you see on the left, the wallet addresses are a very long string of alphanumeric characters. It's very hard to remember, very hard to understand. I'm quite sure nobody here remembers their wallet address, right? It's totally not human readable. And that creates a problem, not just for law enforcement, but also for entities in the crypto space that want to do proper transactions. So what Chainalysis aims to do is using data as well as analytics to be able to decipher this information and help to identify the ownership of the wallets, and therefore provide information on who is involved in the transaction. So whether is it Coinbase, there's an exchange, or Bitstamp, or PayPal, or even a bank, we want to be able to provide that visibility to the industry. And after we have identified the services, we want to further break down these services into different categories. So we have, proper, legitimate, regulated categories like exchanges, mining pools, as well as the bad actors or the illicit actors like dark nets, sanctions, terrorist financing, and those you see on the right. So with this categorization, we are able to provide at one level who are you transacting with in terms of categories, and then second level is really which is the actual services. So if you're transacting with an exchange, is it Binance, is it Bitaza, is it CoinCup, BitCup? We want to be able to provide that level of visibility. So to summarize, we want to take a transaction, a blockchain transaction that you see on the left with all this data that you have, but doesn't really make sense out of it, to tell you very simply that in this transaction, it's Coinify making a transaction to Bitstamp. And at the same time, once we have these categories in place, then the entities can make a better assessment of their risk, whether they should accept those transactions, whether they should block those transactions, and in a way protect their customers from being involved in scams or money laundering or ransomware, right? And we see this as a very important part of the ecosystem, especially when it comes to building trust in this ecosystem. Now, one thing we do not do, and I want to clarify at this point in time, is we do not collect PII information. So essentially, we take data that is on-chain, we add our own data that we do analytics on, data that we acquire from data providers, our own researchers, from working with law enforcement, with our customer base, and we put that into a central database, but we do not touch PII information. So we will not identify a private wallet belongs to Joshua or somebody else. Those will remain anonymous. So before we talk about how we are using this data and the information that we have to build trust and a better crypto ecosystem, I want to talk about the current state that we are in, right? And of course, this data that we have published is prior to what happened in FTX, prior to some of the latest hacks that we have seen, right? But we do know that cryptocurrency is being used by criminals for money laundering, for ransomware, for drug trades, for child abuse. And we have seen an incredible growth, almost 100% growth from 2020 to 2021. So in 2021 alone, we estimate about $14 billion worth of cryptocurrency is involved in criminal activities. Compare that to 7.8 billion in 2020. So that's almost a double increase. However, if we compare this 14 billion with the total transacted amount in cryptocurrency, it's actually less or around 0.15% of the entire cryptocurrency transaction. So you can see that even though it has grown, because the industry has grown even faster, right, that percentage amount is small. So while the dollar value is large, 14 billion is a large amount, if we compare that to the entire ecosystem, it's actually a small amount. And I think it's important for us to kind of understand this figure, because although we have a lot of bad news and bad press in terms of what's happening, in the scheme of the larger scope and view, actually the industry is very much doing the right things, and it's not used predominantly as forms of criminal activities, right? There's a lot of good activities going on, good projects that do the right things and use it for the right purposes. And I think this event today is testament of that. So back to this point, actually criminals' activities using cryptocurrency is only 0.15% of the entire ecosystem. So with that in mind, we know that we still have to tackle this issue of crime in cryptocurrency and how we're going to do that, right? How do we build the trust in this ecosystem? So I want to walk through with you a very simple scenario. So if you can imagine this with me. So we have a person here and he has lost his wallet, right? So this is your traditional finance. A wallet full of cash, and that's been stolen. What's the first thing that he would do? Naturally, he would report it to the police, and the police will move on to the next step of doing some investigation. They probably check some CCTV, and they'll try their best, right? But do we really think that there will be a good outcome in this scenario, right? So just imagine if you were to lose your wallet here today. Is there a way that you are quite confident the police can prevent the criminal from actually taking that cash, going downstairs and buying a watch? Is this scenario traceable or easily investigated? Right, I'm quite sure we all know, right? It's very unlikely they will be able to recover the cash or that wallet. But what if we change the scenario today? And instead of losing physical cash, you probably maybe lost your MetaMask wallet. Maybe somebody hacked into your system, controlled the wallets, and now he basically has moved his funds. So what are you going to do? Right? Obviously, you still have to report to the police. But in this scenario, because it's cryptocurrency, what does the police do? Well, they pass that information to Chainalysis, right? And in our database, we're going to tag that wallet address as a stolen wallet. Okay? So in our database now, that particular wallet address is tagged as stolen wallet. So what do you think will happen next? Well, I'm not going to give you a hypothetical kind of scenario because this has actually happened and is happening almost every day. And I want to give you an actual scenario. So if you look here, this is a screenshot of our forensics investigation software called Reactor. Over on your left, you see Bitfinex, right? So Bitfinex is an exchange that was hacked in 2016. 120,000 Bitcoins, right? And there was consolidated into some wallets over there. And we have actually been tracing the funds, the flow of funds. Now, this is a very simplified version, all right? But we were able to trace the movement of the funds all the way until it reached Huobi in one of the scenarios. And just this year alone, those two criminals who actually were involved in the hack, they were caught because they tried to launder the funds off an exchange. And basically, the police was able to move those stolen funds into a wallet that is controlled by law enforcement. And this is the largest recovery in terms of crypto assets ever. Right? So if you compare a scenario where it's stolen funds based on cash versus stolen funds based on digital assets, this is the possibility that we have, right? Now, and we hear in a lot of news, 2022 was really the year of the hacks, right? Just in 11 months or 10 months, we see a tremendous number of hacks. One of the largest would be, if you can see over there at the top left, Ronin Bridge hack, which was worth about 600 million. And it's very close, right? Because Ronin Bridge, XC Infinity, is based in Vietnam. And this really generated a lot of news. But I just want to give you another use case, another example of the ability of our data to be able to investigate and recover those funds. So out of the 600 million, Chainalysis has already helped to recover 30 million of those funds. Now, some of the funds are still dormant in wallets and have not moved, so there's nothing much we can do. But already we have managed to recover 30 million for XC Infinity, right? And you can see we are able to trace the flow of those funds, where they moved. And again, this is the simplified version. I want to show you the actual version, right? So the actual version is this. So the hacker actually created over 12,000 wallets and moved those funds around. But because it's blockchain and every transaction is recorded, we are still able to trace through all these movements. Now, another big problem is scams, right? And you can see scams in terms of rug pull has also increased in 2021. And of course, in 2022, you can see this particular greenish color here. We have seen an increase, and it's a tremendous amount, close to about 8 billion worth in terms of scams. But today, with Chainalysis, we are also able to help prevent further victims from sending funds to scams. So what do I mean by this, right? So let's walk through a simple example. Again, the first scam victim makes a police report, and the police passes that scam wallet address to Chainalysis. We update and tag that wallet as scam. Now, this information is then now sent to all our customers, over 750 of them worldwide. And what that happens is, let's assuming we have another victim here, unknowingly requesting the exchange to make a transaction to this scam wallet. What happens? Now, the exchange has the ability to screen that request. They get information that this is a scam wallet, and then they block that request. So essentially, we have helped prevent the next victim from actually sending out to this scam wallet, right? And so this is another way that we are building trust in the ecosystem by providing the data and the tools to exchanges, to DeFi protocols, to NFT marketplace, to protect their customer, right? And therefore develop trust, right? The trust to use their platform because they know that that platform is doing the necessary screenings and checks. We give them information that enables them to have alerts when they have funds going out to, such suspicious or illegal wallets. And we give them that ability to look at their risk profile in terms of sending those funds to, proper services like exchanges or to illicit activities like darknet, scams, and sanctions, right? And so we want to empower the industry with such capabilities, in order to build trust in the ecosystem. So what's next? I think with the advance of blockchain and cryptocurrency and NFT projects all over the world, it's important that we have a global database, right? And so at Chainalysis, we're making every effort to go to, every part of the world that cryptocurrency is currently touching, right? So be it in Vietnam, in Thailand, in the Philippines or Mongolia or Kazakhstan, especially in Asia where we see such huge development. We want to make sure that we are participating in those ecosystems to be able to gather the data and contribute our data to them as well. Because as you know, in this industry, it's a global industry, right? So, transactions can happen across borders. And so it's important that we have a global view such that we have a constant circulation of data from Chainalysis to governments, back to Chainalysis, to the commercial sector, the private sector, and vice versa. The next thing is we need to continue to innovate in this industry. And what I mean by that, so in the recent years, we have seen just a tremendous growth of DeFi compared to 2 years ago. Now, with this tremendous growth and the tremendous adoption of DeFi, we also see criminals moving into the DeFi space, laundering their monies through DeFi protocols or attacking DeFi protocols and hacking their cryptocurrencies, right? And you can see such a tremendous growth in terms of value received by DeFi protocols from illicit wallets. And so it's important that we also innovate and make sure that the technologies that we have enable investigators, enable exchanges or DeFi protocols to investigate such transactions in Web3. And so just recently, we have developed Chainalysis Storyline, which is a industry-first dedicated forensics tool to investigate transaction flows in DeFi protocols. For those of you who know, DeFi works a lot with smart contracts, and therefore the interactions is not sometimes very straightforward when it comes to plotting graphs. And so we developed this tool to make sure that we are ahead. We are making sure that we give that data as well as the tools to enable the industry, especially when we move into DeFi, to be able to investigate such activities. And so with that, I will conclude my talk today, but just to reiterate that with blockchain technology and with the data that we have, we are able to continue to build trust in this particular ecosystem for everybody. Right? So thank you everyone for your time.